Can Justin Fields be the next comeback quarterback in the NFL like Baker Mayfield? Jets general manager Darren Moogie seems to think so, and after some remarkable performances, maybe it's time we all considered that possibility. More interestingly, Justin Fields' career seems to be following in Baker Mayfield's trajectory. Both these guys were traded for cheap returns to go fill big shoes. Mayfield went to the Buccaneers to fill in for Tom Brady, and Justin Fields is with the Jets to fill in for Aaron Rodgers. But the real question is, can Justin Fields continue to raise his game? Can he be the Jets' savior? And why do such young talents fail with their first teams in the league? To answer all that, we have to start with Baker Mayfield's NFL beginnings.
You want to be the first pick in the draft?
Yeah, I do.
In 2018, Baker Mayfield was the #1 overall pick, fresh off a Heisman Trophy and a college career that screamed franchise quarterback. His rookie year in Cleveland backed up the hype with 3,725 passing yards and 27 touchdowns. Everything was going well, and it looked like the Browns finally had their savior. But the NFL rarely tells fairy tales. Cleveland chewed through 4 head coaches in 5 years, and each one brought a new playbook that slowed his growth. By 2020, Baker was being sacked 46 times in a season. His completion rate dropped to 60%, and he threw 18 interceptions. Once the electric quarterback, Baker was now the reckless quarterback. By the time he landed in Carolina, he had the journeyman label, and although his stint with the Rams kept him afloat, nobody thought he was a franchise QB anymore. However, Tampa Bay gave him what Cleveland never did: stability, a top 5 offensive line, weapons like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and most importantly, a system that leaned into his fiery, quick-trigger style. The results were undeniable.
First one gave Tampa Bay a first. 3rd and 6. Mayfield, pocket collapsing late, but he finds his favorite target, Mike Evans. Behind. 3rd down, Mayfield. Pressure comes, steps away, slings to Godwin and a first down.
Because he is so athletic.
2nd and 14, Mayfield back to the air, drops it in on the sidelines to Trey Palmer.
Over 9,000 passing yards across 2 seasons, 60 touchdowns, and a career-best 68% completion rate. 2024 was proof that all that talents like Baker Mayfield needed was the right environment. But can we really say that Justin Fields is one of those talents? Let's dig into his career too. The trajectory. Justin Fields was playing for Georgia before getting transferred to Ohio State. At OSU, he threw for 5,373 yards and 63 touchdowns across 2 seasons. He also rushed for 867 yards with 15 touchdowns. He earned Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year honors, was a 2019 Heisman finalist, and led the Buckeyes to a 20-2 record, including the 2021 National Championship game. Note that Baker Mayfield, too, had to get transferred from Texas Tech to Oklahoma before he took off. Then when Justin came into the league, he came with pro-ready rushing juice, a rocket arm, and instincts that turned broken plays into big gains. But in Chicago, Fields faced a constant storm of change. Coaches and coordinators rotated through, scheme fits were inconsistent, and the offensive line struggled to keep quarterbacks upright. The Bears allowed 58 sacks in 2022, a league high, and that pressure environment forced Fields to make rushed reads, quick exits, before his progressions fully developed. Therefore, Fields' tape is quite paradoxical. On one play, he explodes through defenders for 80 rushing yards, proving he is a top-tier runner at quarterback. On the very next series, he holds onto the ball too long, takes a clean shot, and coughs up a turnover. In 2022, he finished with 1,143 rushing yards, a number that underscored his game-breaking mobility, even as his passing game got weaker. The thing is, the instability within the Bears organization meant Fields rarely got long enough to convert processing into accuracy. The stat line shows the pattern: completion percentages stuck in the low 60s, and a sack-heavy war of attrition that cost development reps and confidence. Career totals to date reflect both the upside and the interruption of continuity. Significant rushing production, but an uneven passing ledger that includes 46 career interceptions and a starter record under 350 at various times. Therefore, Justin needed a change of scenery. Pittsburgh offered a short-term bridge in 2024, where Fields showed cleaner mechanics in limited starts, a slightly higher completion clip, and signs that coaching attention on footwork and release could move the needle. But then Fields is at his best when clean pocket times meets playmakers who stretch a defense. His deep ball can flip games, and his legs create a second offensive dimension. That combination was often missing in Chicago. Therefore, his free agency move to the Jets in 2025 was not a roll of the dice. It was a targeted experiment, a short-term contract with a team that believes its line, weapons, and coaching architecture can accelerate the traits Fields already has. So, Are we about to witness a comeback like Mayfield from him? At first glance, Justin Fields and Baker Mayfield's career arcs look eerily similar. Both entered the league with heavy expectations. Mayfield was the Heisman winner, drafted first overall to rescue the Browns. Fields was a college star from Ohio State, drafted 11th overall to give Chicago its long-sought franchise quarterback. Both flashed as rookies with highlight moments that teased their ceilings. But the trouble came fast. For Baker, it was Cleveland's dysfunction. 4 head coaches in 5 years, each with a different offensive philosophy. For Fields, it was Chicago's offensive line collapsing and coordinator turnover stunting development. The result in both cases, quarterbacks running for their lives, turnovers piling up, and the franchise savior label slipping into maybe he's not the guy. As a result, both were written off early. Baker was traded, benched, and slapped with the journeyman tag. Fields was sent to Pittsburgh as a placeholder behind veterans, and later signed in New York as an upside swing. Their reputations followed the same script, from hope to doubt, from centerpiece to spare piece. However, the way they respond to chaos differs. Baker's comeback in Tampa Bay wasn't powered by physical gifts alone. His edge has always been quick processing, fiery swagger, and a fearless release. He trimmed his time to throw from 2.7 seconds in 2020 to 2.1 seconds, and it showed in completion percentage and turnover reduction. He is not the fastest or the strongest, but he learned to weaponize anticipation. Fields, by contrast, leans on physical dominance. His running ability is top 3 among quarterbacks, and his arm talent is undeniable. But his time to release still hovers closer to 2.8 seconds. That half second is the difference between a strike to Garrett Wilson and a drive-killing sack. Where Baker thrives on timing and rhythm, Fields is still learning to translate improvisation into structure. Therefore, the environment matters even more. Tampa surrounded Baker with stability, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and a top 6 offensive line. The Jets believe they can do the same for Fields with the likes of Olaf Ashanu, Joe Tipman, Elijah Vera Tucker, and a 13th ranked O-line. But then Justin doesn't seem to be a player that will do a lot of passing. The Jets team need his legs more. However, when it's necessary, can Fields sharpen his reads and trust his pocket? Can he evolve the same way Baker did, using experience to refine decision-making rather than relying on raw athleticism alone? That's the crux of the debate. Their similarities show us potential, but at the end of the day, everything depends on how Justin Fields responds to his new situation. There's no doubt that the Jets management are ready to support Justin, but there's still a lot of work to do if he's going to be the next Baker Mayfield. Yes, he has the talent, and like Mayfield, his growth in the NFL was stunted by instability within the franchise. But now that he's given the tools to succeed, what can we expect? The Jets management are definitely watching his development closely enough. But how much better can he get? For him to reach Baker's level, you gotta understand, Baker's resurgence came because he learned to process faster, release quicker, and thrive in structure. His bravado worked because it was backed by timing and anticipation. Fields' game right now is built on athletic dynamism, highlight runs, and cannon throws. Yes, that will get the crowd to love you, but can you build a dynasty on that? Fields' future hinges on whether he can blend Baker's discipline with his own raw tools. If he shaves half a second off his release, trusts the system, and uses his legs as a complement instead of a crutch, he can surpass Mayfield's ceiling. However, if those adjustments never come, the most realistic outcome is not a Mayfield-style comeback story, but a career that mirrors quarterbacks like Geno Smith or Tyrod Taylor. Talk about flashy, valuable quarterbacks, but always just short of franchise cornerstone status. So, can Justin Fields be the next Baker Mayfield? Only if he embraces structure as much as he embraces improvisation. He must learn to process quicker under pressure, shorten his release on routine reads without losing his deep timing, and preserve his escape and create dynamic without turning it into habit. The Jets buy time with a healthier offensive line profile than the Bears of his early years, and that stability buys him reps to replace improvisation born of survival with improvisation that complements structure. But at the end of the day, this season will show us if Justin will take advantage of the Jets' structure. But what do you think? So far this season, have you been impressed by Justin Fields? Hit us up in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, then you should watch Why Patrick Mahomes is Not Elite next.